Welcome back to Imperium Galactica, where it's time to get a handle on the economic changes that are occurring at Admiral rank, or you could actually refer to it as accountant rank, because we're going to be doing a whole bunch of number crunching. We are a few days further forward. It's November 1st. We have the fleet spread out to interdict any alien attacks, but we're not going to be seeing that for a few days yet. It usually takes about 10 days into Admiral rank before that occurs. So we have gotten the trade centers researched and built up a bunch of them. Let's take a look at that. All of them are either in place or building. Here on Mirrodin, Trade Center is right here. They're fairly impressive buildings, I think. Colorful, obviously, some thought went into those designs. And modest cost, 17,000. 1,000 energy. And it says it boosts weekly trade income daily, actually, although obviously improving daily also improves the weekly. We have, getting back to where it is, a square footprint. So it's very similar in placing it. You can use the locations for like a food factory or solar plant or police station. All of those are the same dimensions. Now if we look at what the impact of these is. Coming into Admiral rank, we had about 75,000 tax income. That's grown a little bit. About 8,000 trade income. And this number is going to go higher. But you can see it's making a significant boost to our economy, getting all these trade centers up and running. Then if we sort of pop down and look at the Garthog version, which is kind of interesting because why do the Garthogs even have a version? Won't let us build the trade spaceport, won't let us build the bank on Garthog planets, but you can build a trade center? I'm not sure why that is. But these aren't finished yet. They're in process, and they're much smaller than the human version. And then we're building a development center as well. And that is because we want to be able to finish our next bit of research, which is the colonization ship. And this is the only one that we are doing at slower speed at this rank. Everything else can be maximum speed, minimum time to get it done. We've got so much research to do. But we're throwing the economy a bone here because of how expensive this one was. 50,000 base cost, doing it at half cost, or approximately standard cost. And then also gives us that money to get those trade centers going while it proceeds. And the AI development center there is going to be required for this. So even if we had tried to accelerate the investment, we wouldn't have been able to get the development center up in time. Then we are building some other things as well. We're building some satellites to scout out additional planets. And these are super cheap, but they do consume a decent amount of factory time. You can build 2 of these roughly per factory per day. And so we're not even going to be able to get this full 20 built. What I don't want to have happen, though, is getting the colonization ships ready and trying to build those at the same time I'm building these. It'll slow down the ships. So I'm going to batch build here. Build a bunch of survey satellites in between colonization ships. And we get the money for a new colonization ship, build one of those, and stop the satellites, and then after that's done, batch build a bunch more satellites. The other item that we have working on now is a couple of these field arrays to extend the radar range of a couple of cruisers that are going to go around and scout for additional galaxy, or planets rather, for us to survey other places in the galaxy. 9,000 each, so I don't want to build a bunch of them, but a couple should be enough to get the job done. Now, looking at where we want to invest our cash, now that we do have all of the items that I want economically up on all the planets, we do have a park on Earth, but I'm not going to build the parks till a planet gets up to about 10,000. Not going to get that second police station till that same point. There's our park. And the planets that don't have stadiums are not going to get them till they hit 20,000. And that's just because the return on investment really isn't there at that point. Like, for example, Mirrodin, no stadium, no park, 1 police station. Same thing for Ajepolis, which wouldn't be able to have a park, and also for Giantropolis. If you were to, for example, build a stadium on a planet that had 10,000 population, it would take it almost 2 months to pay for itself, 50,000 price tag, compared to the increase in taxes you'd be able to get out of it. And this is different from earlier in the game when we had a limited amount of planets and you just wanted to throw everything you could at them to boost your long-term income. Well, now we have the option to go out and take other planets. So that's going to be a better investment, getting those early trade structures, especially as we're seeing the amount of income you can get in from those. It's just going to snowball our economy much better in that way. So we're actually not going to have super high taxes here. You can see very high on Aegipolis, Giantropolis. It's going to stay that way for a while. So let's move forward. And I'm going to move forward about half a day here so that we can take a look at what those survey satellites have to say. So we've got one on exterior 1, but what about exterior 2? Okay, well, it showed us this line down here actually before it goes to that cutscene we've already seen, but alien colony on desert planet, and obviously very well fortified with space bases. Won't be going anywhere near that planet intentionally. Exterior 21, already claimed by the aliens as well, but it is a liquid planet. And no base defenses. If we look here, the liquid planets, you're basically building on the seafloor, which is kind of interesting, but it's also, these have kind of a weird, surreal look to them, in my opinion. And we'll just keep going on around. Center 11. Desert 1, still available. We could claim that. And I think we previously put a satellite, yeah, Center 12. That's another Desert 1 available to us. What about Center 16? Frozen 1. We could take that one as well. So you can see some of them occupied by aliens, but there are some that we can take. And again, this is a big part of getting Admiral rank fast, because there would be more that would be taken quicker if we had not done that. Bunch of bases on Center 3. Center 4. Not built up, but it is alien occupied. Center 14. And this one is the key sort of crown jewel of the early rush here, because the Acombs are going to go for it. And meanwhile, we're going to want to try to go for it as well. Do we get there faster than them? I don't know. We're going to see. Of course, I could have rushed colonization research earlier, not done the trade center thing, not built up my economy. That would have been worse in the long run. If they get there before us, not a big deal. We'll just take one of the other planets. But it would be nice, obviously, to get Earth-like planets can be more profitable than the others would have been. Persol 1. Cratered planet. That's a new type. And it's available to us. And it looks like you might expect. Sort of pockmarked surface with craters in various places. Also areas where it's fully open to be developed and built on. And lastly, Outer 15. And this is a liquid planet. So that one is also available to us as well. We should be able to take a look at the Garthog Trade Center down here now. Development Center in progress, but yeah. And definitely much less impressive than the human version, to put it mildly. Okay, our next item on the agenda is now to get those radars equipped on our ships. So let's let this tick through.
Items produced.
Okay. Now, I have two of them set here, the surveyors group. And let's throw radars onto them. They're going to go from none to having the field array. They'll be able to see much better. Now, I'm also going to split this fleet. And what I've been doing when I split the fleets in terms of naming them, I've been naming them after the name of the ship that's in them, since there's only one ship in each of these. And I actually need to move the ship over there. It's amazing how easy it is for me to forget that. Okay. Let's zoom in a bit so we can properly select this. And then we're going to want to move it further, but for now we'll just move it out that way. So one is the Hunter, this other one is the Terminator. And we're going to move you out this direction. Let's zoom out a bit, and you can see the popping up of those bigger radars. Now, my goal here is that we basically want to zigzag across the galaxy, so I'm going to get each of these to a corner. This is a long-term project, but this is sort of the least tedious way of doing it, and it's reasonably quick. Again, speed is not so much our issue, because we're going to get there. Then you move up to this corner. And then after they get there, you know, zigzag across the galaxy, all the way, you know, across the entire thing. And they will gradually then, with their radar range, reveal new planets. We will send survey satellites out at them, and then colonize as we may perhaps see fit. Well, as it turns out, I was wrong about the timeline. I was expecting to have a little bit longer to prepare, but it's just the next morning, and the Sullup fleet is inbound to Naxos. So we need to deal with this. And essentially from here, it's a question of, you know, what's the quickest way that we can get to Naxos? I'm going to try rerouting the Meltdown here. Could grab the Crusher over here at Garthog 4 as well. We need to engage them before they get to the planet. That's our goal. So if we speed forward a bit. I'm going to wait till it stops at the planet. And this is, again, for the purpose of setting our vector properly, because they're headed straight to the planet. So if we leave from the planet, we should be able to intercept them. If we're even a little bit off, or occasionally it'll bug out and not quite intercept them properly anyway, then particularly the faster fleets will just be able to bypass us, won't be able to catch them, and they'll still be able to attack the planet anyway. So we don't have to engage quite this far out, but we're going to do it here, and want to make sure that they don't get within range of attacking the planet when they hit our fleet. I want to be a little bit cautious here because we actually had to stop the colonization ship research because the AI was still building and that research was halted. So now the AI Development Center has just finished, and we had moved on to the Hubble 2. Now the basic goal here is, other than those first couple of researches, Trade Center and the colonization ship, I want to use stuff that has the highest time to cost ratio. In other words, projects that are the biggest time sink but the lowest financial expense. Just burn that time here early in Admiral rank. It just so happens Hubble 2 is the best on that front. So we got about 20% done, max investment. And now we're going to switch over, and this time at max investment, resume work on the colonization ship. And that will take, it'll be done later today. So we're going to jump that in place. And now we will continue on with our interception of the Sullups. Oh, I do need to change one tax first, though. Where are you? There we go. Now we can do it. Okay, so the point here is, if they engaged us, and you see we still have damage from the previous rank, but if we had been engaged them close to the planet, to retreat from a planet, you actually have to fly through the attacking enemy fleet that's blockading it, and we don't want that. But in this case, we can just run away, which is our point. And why would you just run away? If we see here, they've got one flagship, one destroyer, and 4 fighters, and they will have much more later on. And the initial attacks on Admiral rank, if you take longer to get here, are much more substantive. Notice they couldn't even fire a shot at us. So, seems like a completely pointless endeavor. In fact, it should be a completely pointless endeavor, but it's not, because somehow you mess with the AI. And this is not something I think is actually a bug. I think it is on the, like, poor design element. So they're working at design, but the design is lacking. But what will actually happen, you engage them, and they'll only fight that one battle, and they'll go back to their home system, wherever they got sent from. And if they want to, they can come back and attack, but then you can just do the same thing again. And sometimes, a lot of the time, they won't even come back. So we have deflected their assault by committing the brilliant move of pretending to fight them. And this is the cheese I was referring to earlier in the previous episode. So this is going to be our strategy to deal with their attacks. It doesn't matter how strong their fleet is, it will always work. Now, I would like to use fighters to engage them in this way, because later on they will be having, much more powerful fleets with missiles, and we may even lose, some ships in the process. And so the sort of default mode would be, okay, just throw up a fleet with a fighter on every single planet and fly at them when they come and you're safe, right? Well, unfortunately, we can't get away with that. It's a little more complex because if you look at our fleets list, we actually have 13 here if you don't count the solo. There's a hard limit on 16 fleets. That's the most you can have. Plus, we're going to want to have, at various times, 1 to 2 colonization ship fleets that are out there as well. So we can't just span infinite number of fleets, probably afford maybe one more here. So to cover the rest, and again, I wasn't planning on doing this yet, but we need to have a combination of radar coverage. You may have to occasionally build some more military spaceports that are available so we can use those as places to just throw a fighter out quick and engage somebody when the time arises. So I'm going to need to throw up some more radar detection at the moment. And again, spending money I prefer not to, but I'm doing it by the quickest way I can. And then once we get better coverage, we get the Hubble, all of that, we'll be able to just get rid of these radar telescopes. So we're just, in the long run, spending a couple thousand each planet on a few different planets to make this happen. I'm going to put one here. I'm just trying to put them somewhere I won't want to build anything else in the meantime. That's New Caroline, which doesn't have coverage. Agepolis does not have coverage. And I think I'll need to put one on Mirrodin as well. Just so that we can have time to react no matter what angle they come from. We want to have time to react before they enter orbital space. Okay. Now, that hurts, but I think we're still going to have just enough cash. If we take a look at what we're doing here with our fleet, we should have just enough cash to build a colonization ship when it is complete, which is going to be very, very soon. Matter of fact, I think I'm just going to move forward to that now. Yeah, we lost another satellite. They eventually sometimes knock them down when they're in orbit over their planet. For some reason, they don't like you spying on them. But I don't really care about that. We detected another planet.
Research
Excellent.
completed.
Okay, this is now done. So we're going to switch back to the Hubble. Okay, maximum investment there. And then we're also going to want to build now our first colonization ship, which costs as much as a Mammoth-class flagship. There we go. And we're just going to knock out this last one. You can finish that one really quick. And actually, no. What I'll do is I'll just turn it off. Turn the importance to 0. And there we go. 80,000. 12,000 left. A good amount of the rest is going to be chewed up by our research. So we're not going to have a lot left. But this is going to work. Because we're now going to get that ship up. And with any fortune, hopefully we'll win the race to Center 14. It takes approximately a day and a half to build a colonization ship. So we've got our first one ready. We want to get out to Center 14 as soon as we can. But if we look around, like the Hunter has come down here. It's making its long trek across the galaxy. You can see its radius of coverage. It can cover a little bit over half of the top to bottom area of one of these sectors. So it'll be able to move up to, like around here on the way back and gradually make its pattern. We do have Exterior 20 as an Earth type. This one's only cratered. But this would be a nice planet to go after. The problem with doing that, though, is that we'd have to build a military spaceport right away, and that would be costly. Now, we can still do it if we want, but it's far too far away to get relief from any of our other ships. That's just plain, not going to happen. We also have been, and I'm not bogging this down with the details, but we have been building up our necessary items. We're going to build some hospitals over here soon. New Caroline over here is boosted up over the 20,000 mark. Then we've got, the Garthog planets that we captured at the end of the last rank they've got their taxes in. So we're dealing with the needs as they arise in those scenarios. And we're going to choose Earth. Centrodome's probably about the same distance from Center 14. We'll depart from Earth. Let's get our new fleet going with our first colonization ship. Nicknamed the Falcon. Might as well use that for your fleet name. Now, you don't need a shield. We're just going to yank that off. We're going to yank off your field array. And, well, I'm not going to do it right now because it's easy enough to do off screen. Basically, what I want to do is use, as I'm going to add a fighter to this as well to add protection once we get to the planet initially. But I want to use the field arrays that are coming on these colonization ships that they don't need to throw on some of our cruisers and our flagships and extend their range for protection. Then we can sell the radars that they have and both upgrade our detection and make a bit of money that way. And then I also want to just sell, because we have no reason to keep it, the light shield. So that gives us a little over 1,000 back. So let's head off then over to Center 14 and see what awaits us there. Oh! Look at that. Hours away. But they have seized it. Great. So we have to decide where we want to go instead. And as I mentioned, I do think proximity is important. We could come over here. It'd be a little bit further of a journey. I mean, obviously we have this option of Center 12, Desert Planet. Desert planets are not great. But the key thing here is to be expanding. So I am actually going to come over then to Center 14. Or not Center 14 rather, but Center 12. And what happens is we're detecting more planets. We'll go ahead and see what they have later. But we've made our decision on this ship, so it's not really going to help us. Similarly to how you can outfit a planet or a ship when it's not right next to the planet with a spaceport, you can also colonize a planet when it is not quite to the planet that is going to... There we go. And boom. Colony hub is at 0. So, you can see we now, if we look at our fleet here, the flagship is gone, but it does still have the fighter. And what we're going to want to do now is we have to wait for this to build up. I think I'm going to save all of that because it's a little bit long-winded explanation that will be needed there. So we're going to save that for the next episode. We have our first colony ship out, though. Not happy with the Acombs narrowly beating us there, but I don't think there's anything we could have usefully done to get there faster. We are continuing to explore this way. There's some more Sullups down this way. So we're going to have... Let's see what's at this planet. Okay, that one's taken as well, but these two are still free for the moment. And we've gone up here. We can, we're going to want to add satellites to all of these, continue this exploration, and continue pounding out the colony ships. So we are well on our way, and we'll look a little bit further into the future when we return. Till then, thanks for watching. Imperium Galactica will continue.